Hey everyone, we're back again with another episode, episode 3, and today we're going to be talking about self-limiting beliefs, right? But not only self-limiting beliefs, but also the idea of conformity. Why you need to break out of your own shell, why is it so important that you break the barriers of self-limiting beliefs, our own experiences with them, and how we combated those systems so that we can reach our highest potential. So I just want to get everybody started, I guess, thinking about what some self-limiting beliefs we all have, right? I think for me, one of them has to do on a financial basis is I don't have enough money, right? So whenever I want to do something or I want to start something, sure, I may not have enough money, but I also may say that sometimes that's an excuse, or sometimes I don't really value enough of myself and my own endeavors to invest the money to do something, right? So even in the idea of me saying I don't have enough money, I already limit myself from going to the next level in an endeavor, in an adventure, or an entrepreneurial thing too, just because my belief system says I don't have enough money to pay for something to happen when that may not even be the case, right? I may not need money to do something, especially for people who, jumping right into this, who want to do content creation or social media or just want to get their message across on a more global basis or even in their community. It doesn't cost a dollar to do that, right? Because you can literally talk to someone about what you're doing, about your message, about your story, and sometimes it can be recorded and sometimes not, but the message still stands that you can go against what you call your self-limiting belief and actually still make the difference without it being a dollar.
Yeah.
So that's just one example of a self-limiting belief that I think a lot of people face. It's like, I don't have enough money. Some people have gone, just because of their environments and maybe the way they grew up, they just think, they're not good enough, right? Or they don't deserve it, or they're not worthy, right? So there are a lot of different self-limiting beliefs that get imposed upon us, and we're going to be kind of digging into why, or where that comes from a little bit more, and then how you guys can combat that in your own lives. So,
Yeah. Just realized I had the mic that whole time while you were talking.
oh, you're okay.
But there's this guy on Instagram, social media. His name's Simon Squibb, and his whole idea. His father passed away when he was really young, and his whole ideology from that is anyone can build a business from anything, even without a dollar. He's saying anyone can build something, and that all ties back to this idea of self-limiting beliefs. And for myself, it's tough for me to say that, Britt, because I come from like a privileged background, and if I am to build something, it wouldn't be from like the same situation without I'd be able to like put some money into it, right? Um, However, this guy's like whole argument, it really changed my perspective on the world, and this idea of self-limiting beliefs, especially when it comes to like my journey so far, thus creating content. I haven't gone all in because of self-limiting beliefs, because of these doubts in my mind, because it's not technically the right path to go, right, for someone of my background, and like to go 4 years of education and then to try to pursue content creation, it wouldn't make sense, right? And I realized though that I'm good at this thing. I'm able to accomplish a lot without putting too much time in. So why am I letting these self-limiting beliefs hold me back? And it's one thing to know that they're there, and it's another thing to act on it. And that's a two-step, definitely a two-step process. So it's always very interesting to think about your self-limiting beliefs and really not just think about them, but also act. So those are two things I really think about.
Yeah, I guess when it comes to self-limiting beliefs, I used to have a lot of them, right? In terms of like, I was not good enough for academics. I was not good enough to like start my own business, right? And so like because of the environment that I grew up in, there was a lot of like, it was very competitive. I grew up in a very competitive environment where I was always kind of like racing in a way for like the top spot. And so when it came to like self-limiting beliefs, every time, like there were a lot of self-limiting beliefs on mm,
Remember any?
yeah, there were, I guess, like in terms of academics, like I always thought I was not good academically, especially because the people around me were always, studying smarter, faster. They got concepts very easily. Um, but no,
Yeah. Okay. I I know that a lot of people have dealt with self-limiting beliefs by them being imposed by either family members, those who are, the first generation of anything, right? First generation, college student, first generation entrepreneur, first generation, hell, I don't know, but if you're doing something for the first time in your family or in your bloodline, that's an area where you're not only going to have fear, right? But you're going to have these limiting beliefs. Not only because it hasn't been done before, but you may not even be getting that support from a family member or a closer relative, right? They may not be able to see your vision or your dream as clearly as you do. And no one will ever do that, right? But you. But I want to encourage those who are listening, who are dealing with self-limiting beliefs as we move through this episode, to know that there is only one of you, right? There is no replication that can be done for who you are. And if you don't be you, no one else will. Like, I had to realize that even in my journey, right, of losing weight and just combating so many other things and losing not just the physical weight, but that physical and emotional weight, that was all a part of something that was uniquely happening to me, right? No one else is going to have that exact same experience. No one has been through the exact same things I have, or at least have the same perspective about them to, count it all joy, or just any of the other belief systems that I have. But it's so important that you take off whatever cap was there so you can reach your fullest potential, so you can go to your highest level. But first, you have to realize what they are, right? What are your self-limiting beliefs? What is holding you back, right? A lot of us don't ask that question because we're so convoluted with everything else going on in life that, we make 10, 20 steps forward just to take 30 back just because we didn't address that self-limiting belief. So I really want to encourage those who are watching to just think to yourself, right? Why am I not where I want to be, right? Who has been telling me, or what thoughts have been pervading my mind that are causing me not to think beyond my circumstance, right? What has caused me to think and say, I can't move forward because of this situation in my life? And I think once we get those ideas down and we get to the root of what these self-limiting beliefs are, we can address them more accurately and efficiently, knowing where they started from. A lot of us are trying to take the fruit of these, circumstances that we have going on, or why we're not where we think we are, and just pulling it from there. But we have to go to the root of that circumstance, the root of that thought pattern that holds us back from reaching our fullest potential. So with that being said, I want to ask you guys a question just about conformity, right? We have a lot of people who are in college right now who, are either in friend groups or in organizations, or even not even a part of that, but just a part of daily campus living, that have been conforming to the environment or society around them, right? Jimmy mentioned how, he felt like he was always in competition, that he was racing with someone. And I think we can speak a little bit to that in our own experiences with comparison and how that is a trap in itself. But how can we actually move past the boundaries of our environment to think beyond them?
Yeah, that makes me think about a really important point when it comes to conformity, is that I feel like when it comes to conformity, it's a good short-term solution, the way I see it, because like everything you do now, the way I see every action, every choice I make, I'm paying some sort of price. So it's like, so if I conform now, right, I'm at the stage, I decided to be a Take 5 student. A lot of my friends, my peers, usually compare yourself to your circle that you've surrounded yourself with when you were younger. They're all working jobs right now, right? They're making more money than me, because I'm not making any money right now. But I like had to make a decision. I'm like, do I want the life that they're having right now, or do I want to try to do something different and stand out on my own? So right now I am paying the price of being like an outsider, right, while everyone else is making money. However, if you were to look down the road, where if I am to potentially like pursue my dreams and passions, right, you are paying the price of dealing with a struggle short term for potential long term reward, right? Knowing that you went all in, because you have to think about your future self when it comes to conformity. You have to think about, the thing about conformity is you're not usually, at least in the past when I've conformed, I'm not really happy with myself. Maybe other people will perceive you as like you're in a good spot, or you have everything you want, but the way you really become proud of yourself, the way you really start caring, and like being proud of yourself is the most important thing, right? So if you're proud of yourself, the way you do that is to not conform and be yourself. Everybody in the world I see today is everyone's just so fake. It's just so many transactional encounters where no one really cares about speaking with anyone else, right? And it's once you really become yourself and take pride in that, that's a big thing, like really believing in yourself and having that confidence, because you can be yourself but not have the confidence, and people read through that, you see that. But once you have the confidence for yourself and you stand out, those are the people that people respect the most. Those are the people that people like the most, like someone who is different yet they're proud to be different.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not someone who's different but is not proud to be different. It's someone who truly appreciates who they are, and you can tell, and that energy's infectious, and it starts to change the world, in my opinion. So that's my thought too.
It's good.
Yeah, I guess. Hmm. So when it comes to conformity, I feel like we as humans are kind of made to conform to. So that's my opinion, right? We are made to conform to some extent, in a way, whether it's to some belief or some group or some idea. And you yourself are unique, right? Like Caleb and Maxwell said, but and no one can really replicate you, right? And so you need to find yourself. But I feel like in terms of conformity, the question I want to bring is like, when you conform, can you conform to groups of people that are also in pursuit of the same goal, right? Does that count as conformity, right? If you're conforming to people who like to run and you like to run, is that in a sense that are you reaching, are you discovering yourself more and learning more about yourself within those group of people, right? Or is that like, what's the pros and cons of conformity in that aspect?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, right? So Jimmy's saying, so if you are going down the same path with other people who are like-minded, right, who are trying to achieve the same goal, does that mean you are in a sense conforming? Now, what I always think, even with what Maxwell said about conformity, I feel like without confidence, right, you end up falling into conformity. So if these people are on the same path, or if they're, trying to achieve the same goal and they're like-minded, they still may all have their individual confidence, right? They may do things differently. They may still have different personalities. They may still have even different characters, right? But because they're reaching the same goal and they're like-minded, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're conforming to their environment or to their situation. They just may be, having the same pathway, or not even the same pathway, but the same end goal that they all want. And I don't necessarily think that that means you're conforming, but I would just be hyper intentional about setting myself apart and being different. And one other thing I wanted to just talk about from my perspective, just as a follower of Christ, is that, we're called to be transformed by the renewing of our mind in His Word. And so for me, that takes a lot of pulling down the thoughts that I have and the way that I think, and transforming it by His Word. And so a lot of us, may have situations in our mind or in our thought patterns that make us feel like we're not enough, or we're not worthy, or we can't do it. But we have to take those exact same thoughts and literally take them out and replace them with what God has already said, which is that we're more than conquerors, right? That we're made in His image. And so that really helped me to break past those self-limiting beliefs and to be not conformed, but to be transformed. So I also wanted to ask you guys, right? So when it comes to conformity, has there ever been a situation in your life, or you guys' life, where you conform to an expectation or an environment, or maybe a family status or anything like that?
I mean, I just think about school in general and just like pursuing goals and stuff. Like the way I see school nowadays is, and education is like, there's a lot of stuff I don't really value that I'm learning, right? But I'll do it anyway, and I'll like make sure I get the grade I need, just because a lot of people think is like what school you go to, your GPA it defines like you as a, like, not you as a person, but like your worth in the market and what jobs you can get. So I'm always like gaming that, knowing that like you are get essentially like you have to conform to play the game and try to beat your fellow competitors and like that's when it comes to like a lot of, that's the thing about, I'm going on a bit of a tangent here off topic, but when it comes to like education, for a lot of these like classes that are STEM classes, you're not actually like just being the best version you can be. You're literally going against other students because the classes are curved, right? So it's just, you just have to be above the average, or you have to be at a certain point. So you're not actually able to just be the best person. Like, I mean, you obviously want to be the best person you can be, but you need to outperform your peers. So that's just something I was thinking of. But going back to the original question of what was it, like, have I ever conformed? Yeah, I just think about schooling or friendships. Maybe like you think about like family dinners and stuff where you go to you have to act a certain way, social norms. There's a lot of things people don't agree with, yet we do it anyway, and that's why I recently got passionate about entrepreneurship, and like guys like Gary Vay and Alex Hormozy, who just say it how it is. They just tell you things the way that a lot of people are thinking, but we're too scared to say out loud because that's just not socially acceptable. So yeah, I think we've been all over the place, but that's my answer for now.
I guess when it comes to conformity, some experiences within, like just like Maxwell said, within families, within friendships, there's sometimes in order to feel socially accepted or to fit in, right? Sometimes you may laugh along with a joke that's not funny, and you know that's not funny.
That's deep.
That does not align with your internal values, but you still laugh at it just to fit in and just to not feel left out. Right, but then after that you start to reflect. So like there's a lot of instances where you may conform, right? And it's like some instances that we conform to is like, it's so common that when a professor asks, like, I don't know if it counts as in conformity, right? But when a professor asks like if anyone has any questions, nobody raises their hand besides the one that chooses not to conform to the rest, right? So they're like, oh, I need to learn. I love my education, right? So I'm gonna raise my hand and ask that question no matter what anyone else thinks of me. Even if it's the wrong question, wrong answer, even if the professor mentioned it before, I'm here to learn. And I'm simply here to learn, right? Free of judgment, free of control, free of conformity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we conform in these environments. And so the question is, why do we conform? And we've answered it briefly too. And so
and I think just to answer that even more, a lot of us conform just because we haven't done that internal reflection to find out who we are, right? And we know that confidence, right, that kills conformity, right? When you're confident about who you are, you will not conform to what everybody else is doing just because you think differently, you operate differently. There are some standards, some values that you have, some boundaries that you've set that most people who are living in the expectation of other people or their own circumstances or their environment, they have not done yet. So you're able to stand out just from being different in that way. And I talk about mindset so much because our beliefs shape who we are, and our mindset, if it's not on something even, I always talk about a positive mindset, but more importantly, a growth mindset, right? If I look at exactly where I am now and where I want to be, what mindsets do I need to let go of, and what do I need to take hold of to actually reach that goal, to actually be in that place, right? And I think a lot of us want to, and I explained this off camera to Jimmy, is like we want to have that result, right? We want to just have that thing, have that car, have that job, have that family, right? But before we can have the actual thing, that tangible thing, that relationship, that quality of life, we have to become the person who can do that thing to have the result, right? It's a be, do, have principle. So we have got to stand in agreement with the mindset of, before I can have the $1 million car, can I have $1 million mindset? Can I become $1 million person in terms of the value that I offer to people? Can I become someone where I am not only trusted, but my character is stable, right? So if I want to have a good family and I want to have a good relationship, right? I got to do the inner workings now to become the person who can sustain that, who can manage that, who can actually leave a legacy, right? It has to happen in that order because that's the way God created it. And unfortunately, a lot of us have come out of order with that, and that's why we get dysfunction. That's why we, become something or have a lot of things, and we are not the person who's able to manage it or not the person able to sustain the things that we end up having in life because we haven't done the inner work to become that person. That's that groundwork. That's that work that no one sees. That's that work in isolation, as we talked about in the last episode. We have to become that person that says, look, I know where I want to be, but I know there's some things that I'm thinking right now that if I continue to let them go and I continue to, allow these thoughts to pervade, I won't make it there. So I got to take the time to reconstruct how I think, to reconstruct how I behave, so I can start doing things that are different, so I can start making different choices, so I can start actually saying no to certain things. I have to have a mindset that says, you know what, no is a boundary for me, and it's not something that I feel, is hurting you, right? Even that as a mindset has to go, because if you need to even say no to someone and you feel like you're doing them a disservice, then how, in terms of even just self-care and just your life overall, your greatest ability is to say no, right? So I just think even in that's a mindset that has to be first, right? That's a mindset that has to be changed and shifted so you can start doing things differently to have different results.
Yeah, got a couple.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got thoughts to both of you. I love what you just said, Caleb. What I'm thinking is like you mentioned becoming the person, right? And I think that like explains a lot of just like you take millionaires, right? Like Elon Musk or someone or who like loses all their money, right? But they get it back right away. Why? Because they became the person who was able to handle the $1 million. It's not that they had $1 million, right? That's why the system matters. Who you give the money to, it matters because you become the person. So that's just an example I think about you. And then Jimmy, when you mentioned like the person who raises their hand in class, when I think about that, and I think about the person who raises their hand in class, I don't just think at like that situation specific. I'm thinking about that person. They operate that way in everything they do in life. Is the way I see it, and that's I think mindset applies to everything. How you act in any sort of thing you're doing in life, and that's why people say mindset's the most important thing, and you become the person because when you become that person, your life changes in every single domain. You build winning habits. You're better with your relationships, maybe with a girlfriend or something, maybe with um, whatever you're doing. Money, it helps you in every single way. So I think about the guy in class, right? And it's just that guy probably is wears like who knows, maybe they're wearing like standout clothes or something. They're it's just like you're able to make these inferences that a lot of the time I don't know, it might sound crazy right now, but the way I noticed it is that's just how it seems to pan out. So yeah.
Right. Yeah. I have some things to add in terms of that, I guess. So I guess like I like to go by the saying of how you do one thing is how you do everything, right? And so when you start to take shortcuts in certain things, you might start to take shortcuts through everywhere of your life, right? So if you act a certain way, if you right, so like in a sense that kind of this also ties into like becoming the person, right? And so like let's say you want to start running, right? You want to become a runner, right? You want to become that person who can run.
Yes.
And so that then your mind automatically guides you into these habits, these your mind automatically outlines what to do, right? And so if you think about it now, it's I mean, if you want, you could do exercise, right? In the sense that your mind is kind of like I guess whatever you feed your mind, it becomes, right? And so let's say this. Let's just try something like if I were to say, if I were to mention the word working out, what are some things that come to mind, right? And so like I'll give you an example. Running comes to mind. Like what are some other things that come to mind in terms of that?
Even when we think about working out,
Just anything about working out, anything related to it.
Yeah, I would just say endurance, right? That's one of the things. So how do I become an endurant person in general if I'm going to be working out? Because that's a process where, we have to really break down to build back up. And anything that you're doing and working out and any process in life, there's always going to be that down period or that period of, really disruption before you get to that intended place, So you're right.
So when it comes to like things like working out, you have endurance, you have running, you have weightlifting, you have all these different examples, right? And I guess when you think about, let's say, let me give you an example on finding a job. I want to become a person who has a job, right? And so your mind automatically lists out opportunities for you. It's like, oh, in terms of like on this campus, you go to the Green Center, right? Or building a resume, cover letter, practicing interviews, right? But the moment you feed your mind something negative, right, like procrastination, your mind tells you how to procrastinate automatically, right? Your mind automatically tells you to have these list of excuses for these instances, right? And then the biggest one is doubt, right? Like the self-limiting beliefs and stuff like that. If you doubt yourself, your mind tells you how to doubt yourself, right? And so in a sense that embracing the identity is what Caleb and Maxwell were saying, like in a sense that if you want to achieve something, become the person who has that already, right? Become the person who already has that, right? If you want to run, become the runner. If you want to be a millionaire, you have to you have to try to achieve the millionaire, like I guess how does the character of a millionaire look like? What values do they have? What habits do they have? Do they wake up early? Do they wake up late? Do they sleep early, sleep up late? Do they work hard? What does their day-to-day life look like?
And I just want to say to people who are listening who haven't made that decision yet to step out of those limiting beliefs, is that you have to decide. And I always say that's different from a choice, because a choice, We can go to Burger King, we can go to McDonald's, we can go here. That's a choice you make. But when you decide, you cut off every other option available and you decide on one thing, you choose one thing, and there is no other option to it. And the root word for decide means to cut, which I found out. So you have to make that decision to say, I want to live differently. I want to become this person, but I got to decide right now so that I can cut off any other possibility of becoming authentically who I'm supposed to be, right? So if I'm going to do that and I made the decision, great. Now I have to do, meaning change my behaviors, change my habits, right? Because of that decision that I made. There's an order to how we do this. And as you continue to shift those habits, either you're waking up earlier or you're spending more time in reflection daily, or you're increasing your prayer life or anything like that, where you're spending more time to become that person, you're shifting your habits. So by the time, like we said, if you want to become a millionaire, you have the millionaire mind, you know how to manage $1 million. You know how to manage a business. You know how to manage people. You've grown in people skills. You've grown in those skills that are going to make you sustainable in business to make that $1 million. And not just like, if I gave you $1 million and you hadn't made that decision, or you were still deciding what you wanted to become. If I gave you $1 million, it would still not be to any use of you, only because you wouldn't be able to manage it as well as you could have if you became the person first.
And like to add on to that, if you want to reach that point where you're making that $1 million, you're gonna we're not there, obviously, none of us, but you're gonna have to, like, at least if you want to achieve something like spectacular, you're gonna have to be willing to fail more than like your average type of person. You'll develop this sense of resilience. At least when it comes to like content creation and everything I've done thus far, like my friends would joke, who's we? Like, wait, right? Who's, like, when I would say we at Rise Up Riseman, right? But it's like, now I have a team of 3, and it's just like, I keep doing these projects. No one would think, there will be the keyboard warriors, right? Who will always type something and say like, you can't achieve something or whatever. But the more you just get after it, ignore those voices, you really just focus on your goals and just get obsessed. Like, you just start willing to rise after any sort of setback, challenge. And I think that sort of mindset will start, like, it prevails to whatever you do in life. And that's why people say the process is more important than any sort of reward, any sort of product, because the process is what you really learn. The reward is just something you get through, like it's like when you take a test. The studying's where everything really happens. It's not the actual test. But that type of thinking, that type of mindset, for whatever you're doing, is the grind. Like, that's why a lot of athletes are very successful, and like student athletes are very successful in a lot of jobs or whatever they do, because they've developed this sense of resilience, a sense of purpose, this grind, the process. So that's something I've been trying to work on myself through the content creation or whatever I'm doing, to build these winning habits that will apply to whatever I'm doing. And that's why something as simple as like making your bed in the morning can actually have such like a big difference. And I didn't even think about this. I'd just walk out, be lazy. I'm like, why do I need to do this? But like now I realize, like, everything really matters in the run towards success and the run towards like becoming better as a person. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and I think just to touch a little bit more on what Maxwell said, you have to develop a mindset of resiliency. In my latest video on LinkedIn, I talked about how leaders have developed that mindset of resiliency, can look at a failure and say, look, I know that I failed, but here's what I learned, and here's what I'm doing differently, and implement, as soon as possible, right? We do take breaks off, but we have a mindset that says, look, I have to get back at it over and over again until I succeed, And I think in general, when we break down these self-limiting beliefs, we automatically do become a leader, because our behavior starts to shift. We start to become into the person God created us to be. And a lot of us end up seeing like a version of ourselves that we never thought was possible, all because we tore down those self-limiting beliefs and those excuses, and we decided to reshift and reshape our mindset to be something different. But oh yeah, anything else you want to add?
I guess like you very well said. I definitely agree. I guess like having that mindset of like resilience from the external noise, from the background noise that tells you that you can't do it, being resilient and just seeing each failure, seeing each setback as an opportunity for a comeback, and as an opportunity to be potentially successful, right? Just know that the one thing that you must not ever do is give up, because the moment you give up, it's automatic. No, it's a 0% chance for success, right? But if you don't give up, it can be 0.01, but that could still be something, right? And so, and really, if you look at it now, it's like the people who are actually successful, the people who actually keep on going, will never really hate on you for doing what you're doing now, right? And then unfortunately, I hate to say it this way, but it's like sometimes it's the people that kind of are preying on your downfall that may not be where you are now, but you know, if you want to start running, a person who's interested in running would not make fun of you for running, for starting your running journey. In fact, they would love to help you, right? So finding that group too, maintaining that mindset of resiliency, going through this journey, but also knowing that you're not alone, and eventually you'll find your own group of people.
So it's like I see a lot of videos nowadays. It's just like we live in a culture now where like trying is laughed upon. Like people don't respect trying, and like there's this clip on like on Instagram. It's like these people are like, I'm trying, man. I'm trying to get better. And then at the end the guy's like fucking loser to the the people who are to the guys, because they're not, no one respect the trying is what it's all about. It's about trying and getting better. There's nothing cool about not trying, in my opinion. How are you possibly laughing at someone who is trying? And the more you try, the more reps you put into whatever you're doing, the more confident you will get, because no one can argue against your success. Even that would have that, and that's where the self-limiting beliefs start, I think, because you don't have any sort of success, or like why am I doing this? There's no reason for me to be doing this. There's no point. But the more reps you put in, the more success you get, and therefore the closer you get to your goals. And that's why the hardest part is starting, I think, in like the first couple I don't know, like random couple days while you're working, because that's the point where you have nothing. You're a laughing stock. You don't even trust yourself. So it doesn't matter. Even the most important belief is obviously yourself, and you don't have that. And while everyone else doubts you as well, and you don't even believe in yourself, that's just a tough point to be. It's fine if you like have that trust in yourself, and you know like what, like kind of like watch me do what I can do kind of attitude, and you truly believe that. While no one else believes you, that's a whole different story, and that happens through the reps, I think, as you continue. And yeah, that's just some thoughts I have. Yeah,
That's good. I'm going to close this out, but I do want to encourage those finally who are listening to not only what Jimmy said, don't give up, but most importantly, do not give in. Do not give in to those thoughts that say I can't do it. Do not give in to those thoughts that say I'm too young. Do not give in to those thoughts that say I don't have enough money. Do not give in to the environment and the circumstances around you, because if you do, you will not only just not reach your full potential, but there are so many lives that could have been impacted by you continuing to not give in. So I want to encourage you to just stand firm on changing your belief system to not only be positive, but to be growth oriented, and for you to continue becoming the person that you were created to be. All right. I think that's it, y'all. Peace out.
that was our best one, I thought.